It usually takes me a minimum of 4 weeks to finish my big 3D printing projects. For this video I challenged myself to finish the paint job for this Superman bust as fast as I can, with a decent enough result. I'm excited to see how this turns out, so let's jump right in. You might have seen this model on my channel already, but since my printer didn't run for a while, this is the only test specimen I currently have. I have already primed the model with a Grey Vallejo primer. Now let's get started, the clock is ticking, let's see how quickly we can bring Superman to life. And this challenge already starts really well. I wanted to start with the main color blue, but put red into my airbrush. So let's hit the rewind and switch out the color. Now we are equipped with the right color, so let's start again. Usually I would hit the model with a coat of matte varnish after every color, but since we have a race against time, I will skip this process. Which is a bit risky. If I mess up something, I cannot simply remove the paint and potentially have to repeat the previous step. Spoiler alert, that will happen. Since the paint also doesn't have enough time to dry, the plan was to use masking putty only, because this is the safest method and doesn't stress the paint too much. But hey, plans are made to be broken. And since masking takes time, I will do some hand painting as well. Little did I know at this point that masking would have been faster anyway. After 10 minutes I was done with the base color, and then I used sky blue to create a few highlights. Keep in mind that the time also includes cleaning up the airbrush when I'm switching colors, so it's not just the pure painting time, but the whole process. When the blue part of the suit was done, after 13 minutes, I used basic skin tone to trim the area where the skin intersects with the suit and cape, but since I was already at it, I gave the whole head the first layer of skin tone. I wanted to work my way from the inside to the outside layers, since it's always easier to mask off recessed areas compared to raised areas. The cape received a first coat of scarlet red, and then I added a little bit of white to paint the high spots a bit lighter. For that I used my new 2024 H&S Evolution CR+. If you want to see my review for this airbrush, check that out after watching this video. Although it's a smaller surface, the cape took a bit longer, we're now right at the 45-minute mark. The reason was that the hand painting always requires a couple of coats to get an opaque look. With the airbrush you can achieve that way faster. Next I masked the Superman logo and hit that with a white color first, so that the yellow on top pops. And while you watch me paint that logo, please go ahead and leave a quick comment for the algorithm. With my hairdryer I did some speed drying. Then I needed to mask the inside of the Superman logo, which took another 5 minutes. Then I painted that with standard red and again mixed a drop of white in the paint for a slight color gradient on the upper half. Afterwards I needed to trim all the edges that were covered by the masking putty, so on the inside and outside of the logo. That took another 20 minutes because I had to repeat the process, especially on the outside of the logo where I needed to paint red on top of blue. With that, after 1 hour and 45 minutes I was done with the suit. It would have been tricky to use masking putty where the cape meets the skin, so I decided to hand paint the skin tone. But that was a bad decision. It took another 30 minutes and multiple coats to get a full coverage, but the paint still was not really even. The problem was, by introducing new wet paint on top of the semi-dried paint, the layers underneath got reactivated a bit. And that caused a bit of smudging. So after 2 hours and 14 minutes I decided to do a cut, let the paint dry for an hour and hit it with a layer of matte varnish before finishing the next day. So we later need to add an additional 5 minutes for the clear coating I didn't show. Since I wasn't satisfied how the skin color looked with the paint brush, I decided to now go down the masking route. I initially wanted to use masking tape for the whole perimeter between suit and skin, but the shape of the cape makes it really tricky to position the masking tape correctly, so I switched over to masking putty, although I already knew that this will cause some trouble later. And it did. So I used basic skin as a base color and then went over that with light brown. Afterwards I loaded the airbrush with tile black for the hair and then hand painted the strands. After unmasking I of course had spots of skin color on the cape, so I needed to go back in there with scarlet red, and I also went in with hot orange. And this is another good example of why shortcuts sometimes make you spend even more time. I didn't cover the skin when I airbrushed the cape and got some serious red overspray on the skin tone, which I now have to fix later. But I grabbed my pastels next and made the lips red, and with that white I painted the eyes. Then I took black pastel and toned the eyebrows before I hand painted single hairs on top. Since I'm not able to go for a realistic look under time pressure, I thought I'd add a few blue highlights to the hair, but the magic blue I chose was way too bright. So I wanted to use the airbrush with tire black again to reverse that step, but then I had a clogged airbrush and I also needed to do a painting pause. After I returned an hour later, I just hand painted the hair black and then went the proper way and used masking tape to protect the suit when I redo the skin color. And you can see it was actually only 8 minutes until I was done with the masking. So it would have been faster to directly just do it this way. Then I followed the same technique as before, basic skin first, then light brown on top. I now used ultramarine blue for the highlights on the hair, which looked way better than the magic blue. The last step was to grab my eye decals that you can get on my Etsy shop as well. I chose a blue colored iris in 1/6 scale, and after some fiddling around and fixing a damaged spot with a drop of blue paint, I was done. I will not further varnish the model for now because this will be part of an upcoming video where I will share all my tips and tricks about clear coating. So make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Before we call it a day, how long did it actually take now? The first session went for 2 hours and 14 minutes, the second for an hour and 11 minutes, and the final third session for 37 minutes. And another 5 minutes for the clear coat I applied. So a total of 4 hours and 7 minutes. I actually thought I can make it faster, but on the other hand 4 hours including cleaning the airbrush between paints, a lot of trimming by hand, masking, and repeating a few steps because I messed up in between is still not too bad. What do you think how long you would need for a bust like this? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video.